You work hard, but somehow your life still does not move. You think too much, start too late, get pulled by emotion. Miss the real turning point, not because you are lazy, not because you are stupid, because some patterns have been running your life the whole time. Six effects. That is where we start. The best way to make someone like you is not by helping them, but by letting them help you. This is called the Franklin Effect. The idea comes from Benjamin Franklin. At one point, he had to work with a politician who strongly disliked him. Instead of trying to please the man, Franklin did something unexpected. He asked to borrow a rare book from the man's personal collection. Surprisingly, the man agreed. He lent Franklin the book. Franklin returned it a few days later with a polite thank you. And something interesting happened. Their relationship slowly improved. The man who once disliked Franklin eventually became his friend. That's why psychologists call this the Franklin effect. Sometimes the best way to make someone like you is not by doing a favor for them, but by giving them a chance to do one for you. Have you ever noticed this? The rich often get richer, and the poor often fall further behind. This pattern is called the Matthew effect. The idea comes from a story in the Bible in the Gospel of Matthew. In the story, a master gives money to three servants before leaving on a journey. Two servants invest the money and earn more, but the third servant is afraid, so he hides the money in the ground. When the master returns, he rewards the servants who multiplied their money, but the servant who buried it loses everything, and the master says, "For whoever has will be given more, but whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken away." In 1968, American sociologist Robert K. Merton used this story to describe a social pattern. Advantages tend to accumulate. Those who start ahead often gain even more opportunities, while those behind can fall further and further back. You can see this in education. Students who perform well often receive more attention and support, and in the workplace, experienced employees are more likely to get important projects. Understanding this is not about accepting fate, it's about recognizing how systems work, because in many areas of life, success is not only about talent, it's about accumulation. In 1927, a Soviet psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik noticed something interesting in a restaurant. Waiters could remember every detail of orders that hadn't been paid yet. But the moment the bill was settled, those same details seemed to disappear from their memory. This observation sparked a question. Do unfinished tasks stay longer in our minds? To test this idea, Zeigarnik ran a simple experiment. Participants were given a series of small tasks, things like solving puzzles, stringing beads, or simple math problems. But there was a twist. Some tasks were interrupted before the participants could finish them. Others were allowed to be completed. At the end of the experiment, participants were asked to recall the tasks they had worked on. The results were striking. People remembered unfinished tasks about 90% better than the ones they had completed. This phenomenon became known as the Zeigarnik Effect, sometimes called the unfinished task effect. Humans have a natural urge to complete things. When something is left unfinished, it creates a kind of mental tension. Your brain keeps reminding you to go back and finish it. In other words, unfinished tasks create psychological momentum. You see this everywhere. For example, TV shows often end with a cliffhanger, a mystery, an unanswered question, and suddenly you can't wait for the next episode, but there's a catch. Too many unfinished tasks can overwhelm your mind. Instead of motivation, you feel stress, pressure, mental fatigue. But used correctly, this effect can be powerful, even in social situations. Instead of finishing every conversation, leave a thread open. For example, when a discussion gets interesting, you might say, "That's a great point. I actually had a similar experience, but I have to run now. Next time we meet, I'll tell you the story." That small sense of incompletion makes people remember you. The same principle applies to how you present yourself. Don't reveal everything at once. Leave space for curiosity. A little mystery makes people want to come closer. Remember this. Sometimes the most powerful force in human motivation is not completion, it's unfinished business. If you learn to use this effect, whether in work, relationships, or storytelling, you'll stand out far more than you expect. The less someone knows, the more confident they often are. You've probably met someone like this. They just started a job, and within a week, they're already thinking, "These processes are stupid. I could do this way better." So they jump in, take over everything, full confidence until something breaks, and suddenly Someone experienced has to fix the mess. Psychology actually has a name for this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. It describes a strange bias. People with low ability often overestimate their own competence. Why? Because it's a double trap. First, they lack the skills. But second, that same lack of knowledge prevents them from seeing their own mistakes. In other words, they don't just get things wrong, they also can't see that they're wrong. Experts see something different. They see complexity, they see risks, they see all the ways things could fail. That's why real growth doesn't feel like becoming more confident. It feels like realizing how much you still don't know. And strangely, that's that moment when you start saying, I might be wrong, is often the real beginning of intelligence. If I told you the only way to survive was to eat an entire elephant, your first reaction would probably be, that's impossible. And you'd be right, no one can eat an elephant in one bite. But strangely, this is exactly how most people approach their goals. I'll write a novel, lose 20 kilos, learn a new language, start a business. These goals stand in front of us like a giant elephant. Just looking at them is enough to kill your motivation. So we do what people always do. We plan, we watch videos, we make lists, and somehow we never start. But there's an old idea called the eat the elephant rule. The rule is simple. You eat the elephant one bite at a time. Psychologist Edwin Locke explained something similar in his goal-setting theory. Big goals only work when they become clear, specific, and actionable. Write a novel sounds terrifying. But write one page today is manageable. Lose 20 kilos feels overwhelming. But walk for 30 minutes is easy to start. When a task is small enough, your brain stops resisting, and every small win creates momentum. One step becomes two. Two steps become progress. Progress becomes confidence. Before you realize it, the elephant that once terrified you is already gone. So remember this: dream big, but act small, because the biggest goals are always achieved one small bite at a time. Everyone says they want to make money, they want to change their life, but what actually happens? You save 100 get rich videos. You try something new every week, a side hustle here, a new idea there. And by the end of the year, you're somehow even more broke. That's not effort, that's random motion. And the reason you feel stuck is because you don't understand the flywheel effect. Imagine a giant wheel, heavy, almost impossible to move. The first push does nothing. The second push barely moves it. It feels pointless. But if you keep pushing in the same direction, again and again and again, like something changes, the wheel starts to move, then it spins, then it accelerates, and eventually the wheel gains momentum. Now, the wheel is helping you move. That's the flywheel effect. But most people never reach that point because today they push one wheel, tomorrow they try another, next week they start something new, and none of the wheels ever start spinning. They end up exhausted but going nowhere. Hey, if you want to build momentum, remember three things. First, find your first push, not 10 things, just one. The thing you're best at, the thing you actually enjoy, the thing with real potential. Second, commit to that one thing, not for a week, not for a month. Push it for 100 days straight, no shortcuts, no switching. Third, build a reinforcing loop. Your effort creates results. Those results create resources. Those resources make you stronger. And being stronger creates even more results. That's how momentum builds itself. Stop waiting for the perfect opportunity. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. The most powerful force in the world is momentum. And the most powerful ally you'll ever have is the version of you who finally started the wheel. Your flywheel has been sitting there this whole time, covered in dust. All it's waiting for is the first push.